morning, everybody, from the Inn at Fox Hollow at Woodbury, New York. I'm your host, Kimanthi with the second, and I'm here with the Spotlight Author of the Day.
Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Williams and I'm happy to be here. I'm feeling very blessed to be the Spotlight Author.
All right, so Cheryl, first things first, what motivated you to start writing?
Well, I started writing when I was pretty young, as a child, and that helped me a lot to deal with the stresses and the frustrations in life, especially my mom getting ill when I was very young. So I started writing a lot of poetry, and that's what motivated me to start writing.
Very nice, very nice. And what genre or genres do you specialize in currently?
Well, poetry is my preferred genre. I write adult poetry and I also write children's poetry.
Who do you write for, and who's your target audience for these books?
Well, I started out writing for adults, but the younger children I work with, because I was a school nurse for about 6 years, they loved the book so much that I decided, okay, let me start writing for children. So I've written 2 children's books so far. So I would say I write for everyone. I write for females, males, adults, children, everyone.
And when did you begin your writing journey?
Well, I started right here and there as a child, but recently, I started actually in 2016. I sat down and I figured all of the stuff that I wrote over the years, let me try to put it in a book. And that's when I started the journey of publishing my first book, a collection of poems. It was actually published in 2018 in December.
What is the most rewarding to you about being an author?
Well, when I get feedback from my readers and, my book helped them in some way, that makes me feel I'm what I set out to do, I'm doing, it's helping people. That's what the most rewarding to me.
Who is a writer or a poet that inspired you or currently inspires you to keep writing?
Well, it started out with Louise Bennett. She was a Jamaican poet, and I loved her as a child in high school. And then now, as an adult, it was Maya Angelou. Her poems are very powerful, especially like I'll Rise and Phenomenal Woman. Those are my favorites by her.
Yeah, I remember reading Maya Angelou back in high school, and her pieces were very touching. What was the most positive feedback you have gotten about your writing so far?
Well, I would say, a lot of adults give me positive feedback, but I would have to say it from a child. And it was in reference to my book, The Brightest Star That Shines Tonight. And that child had lost an aunt. And he was so distraught, but by reading my book, it helped him to connect with the positive things that he did with his aunt while she was alive. And that kind of motivated him. So that really touched me, because I realized that the advice that I gave in the book, and the positive vibes that I give in the book, it helped somebody, especially a child. So that was very inspiring for me.
Where does your inspiration continue? Hold on, let me go back. Where does your inspiration to continue writing come from? What keeps you going? What is your why?
Yeah. Well, everyday things. Like, I'm a nurse, so if I have a really rough day today, I'm dealing with somebody and they're dealing with a rough time, when I get home, I start writing about that. So I would say everyday things, right? Dealing with people on a regular and just the stresses of life. It motivates me to keep writing. And that keeps me going.
So you just, how would I word this? Note events that happen in your day-to-day life, and you just jot them down, and it becomes ideas?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the best ideas, right? Because we go through different things in life, right? Even here, look around. There's so many ideas here to write, right? So that's what keeps me going. And there's so much to do, right? A lot of things to do, and a lot of things to learn, and a lot of things to live.
How do you connect with your audience?
Well, first of all, I talk to them a lot, right? And I do a lot of events, and so that helps me to connect with them. Like, when there's special events, like for my book, The Brightest Star That Shines Tonight. It's a bereavement book. So in November is bereavement month for children, and so I do a special event for that. So I get to connect with the audience that love that book, the audience that's dealing with grief, right? So that's why I connect. So the holidays or that coincide with the book, I do an event for that. So therefore we get together, we talk about that particular situation, and that's how I connect with them.
How has readers' feedback impacted you and what you do?
Well, it's been very powerful because if you read my book, right, and you tell me that it helped you in some way, that's inspiring me too, because now I'm empowered by what you say, right? And I feel like it was all worth it. So the feedback I get from readers, it empowers me to write more, right? To get my book out there to more people, right? To get it to a bigger audience. That way, if it helps you, it can help other people.
Very nice, very nice. What advice would you give to new writers or aspiring writers?
Well, first of all, I tell new writers be patient, because a lot of times after you write a book, you want the world to know about it, and that's great because you wrote that book, and you would like it to reach as many people as possible. But you have to take it easy, take it slow, right? And that's how you get to where you're going. Slow and steady, right? Slow and steady. Keep going. Don't ever stop. But just understand. Don't be so hard on yourself, right? And you will find your tribe. Now, everybody's gonna like the book you write, or the book I wrote, but eventually you'll find that tribe. So take it easy, take it slow. Don't be too hard on yourself. You'll get there.
And for those of you watching right now, always remember, great things do take time. Nothing is always easy. You have to work for everything that you really want. And yeah, that's just life. How do you promote your work?
All right. So I do promote my work. It's strange. Some people think I'm crazy, but I do donate a lot of my books. So I donate books to the libraries, to schools. I actually recently started donating books to Camp Good Morning. That's an organization that deals with children that deal with death and loss. And so by doing that, I'm reaching more people. Because somebody might see my book and they might be interested in buying it. But if I gave you a copy, then you would want to read it because it was given for you for free, right? But I do also promote my work through my events also. So I do events, and those events bring new people in. And I try to encourage as many people as possible to participate in events. But I do donate a lot, and I think that's helping me a lot too.
Yeah, it's always nice to give back to your community and not to just live in it, be a productive part of it. It always comes back to you, whether you see it immediately or not. And the last question of the day, what are your plans for the future, and do you have any upcoming projects?
So my plan for the future is, as it is today, to continue to make a difference, continue to reach my readers, new audiences. I recently started working on my Spanish version of my children's book, A Lesson a Day. So that's my hope, that it will reach, now it's going to reach the Spanish readers. I am also planning on adopting a school in Africa, sending my books there and helping to promote them over there. So upcoming events is going to be Juneteenth, the next one. All right? So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it.
Yes, and me, my mother, and my father will all be at this Juneteenth event. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to see and eat the different types of food that they have. It's going to be amazing. So if you guys end up seeing the flyer on social media, definitely consider showing up. It'll be worth it. And before you go, do you want to read a little excerpt from one of your works?
Oh, somebody brought it over here. That's good. All right, so I'm going to read a poem. So I'm going to read from my first book, a collection of poems, and the poem is called Phenomenal. You may see me struggle as I lie awake. You may see my anger, but you will never see me break. The rivers I cross are many, banks gaping, water tall. The rocks are hard and slippery, yet I will never fall. When life squirts bitter lemons to sour my sweet day, regardless of how bitter, I won't succumb to pain. With perseverance I walk on, resilience my backbone. with faith and make it through the storm, I am phenomenal. And so are you, all phenomenal people. Thank you so much, King.
You're welcome. It was great chatting with you, Cheryl. Thank you. I appreciate it. Up next, we have Frank Destefano. He's coming up right here, right now.
Hey everybody, how you guys doing? Yeah, it's okay. No worries. How's everybody doing today? You know, say hello. Everybody who's watching, you know, we're chilling, we're hanging out at the inn at the Fox Hollow today at the Long Island Authors Group, and we have this great event for everybody, for readers and authors and everybody. So come on down and say hello, and you know, all the great authors that are here with their materials and everything. So, you ready?
All right, so Frank, how did you get into writing books?
Well, I saw the movie Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag, and I wasn't very thrilled about it. So my father actually told me to, if you don't like something, do something about it. So I did. So, you know, but who would have thought that watching a mafia movie would turn into the dark legend of the foreigner and the multiple stories that I've come up with and that continued to come up with. So, you know, sometimes you get inspiration from people or seeing things or, you know, just listening or whatever. But that's how I came up with it. And it seems to always draw the attention to my fan base. So, and it keeps on growing. So, always more room for growing and possibilities. And, you know, I'm proud of that.
What genres do you specialize in?
Well, The Dark Legend is more fantasy, but I have another book that's called The Cody Cobb File that's more of a suspense thriller. Then I have a couple of dramas that are sitting on my computer, a couple other things. So I'm trying to, you know, branch out a little different in genres that I do. My specialty will always be the Dark Legend, but my ideas with other things will always be to try to span my horizon. And as a writer, that's how you always increase your fan base as well.
Speaking of genres, do you ever plan on publishing something that's on the complete other side of the spectrum than what you're writing right now?
I have a few that are on my computer that are different, and I do, you know, just, you know, you're finding the right, you know, putting together a book, right? You know, you need the right cover. You have to see something that you view, right? No one else could see that, right? It has to have the great editor. So there's different components of putting a great book together, you know, besides the words that are on the paper or on the computer screen. And just continue to evolve, right? You know, we all say that we all want to evolve as people or your stories and stuff like that. I seem to write different things that I want to branch out, but I always want to make sure that those are, you know, spot on. As perfect as I could see it, you know?
And how do you come up with the ideas that you come up with to write?
You know, like with The Dark Legend, like things just come to me so naturally, so I can't say that it's one thing over another. But other things have come to mind, you know, personal experiences. Sometimes I put that in other books that I write, you know, or just some ideas that I might see just around, you know, just being and just living, right, you know. But the Dark Legend stuff just comes to me, and then, you know, I listen to music and I think of different ideas. So music has a lot to do with it, you know, part of the entertainment, you know, field that we're all in with writers, you know, music and movies, they all entwine. So just music really does it for me.
And music's an amazing outlet. I personally listen to rap for my workouts, playing basketball, whatever. It's just always a good outlet to get out of the real world temporarily. What are some good tips for being a writer that you would give to aspiring writers today?
I was going to do something funny, but I don't know if everybody will last. There's a song, Never Stop Believing, and that's how I would say, it's a great song by Journey. Of course, everybody remembers it because it was the last song at the end of Sopranos, But also, it stays true because you believe in something, go get it. No one's going to, fluff your pillow or, or try to help you. I mean, some people will, but I didn't know anything about writing in what I decided to jump into. So I had to figure it out for myself, but that's a lot of people have to, and just believing in myself and having a great support of people behind me. That's always a key that's a rock hard and, that makes people, you believe in your work, people start believing in your work. And then, the different areas that I have gone, those people believe in me, whether it's here on Long Island or, out in Orlando or in Virginia or wherever, or Jersey or Pennsylvania, East Coast, wherever I go, me being the passionate one about my books, that's how you get people to follow you, right, and really believe in it. And, having great work that you put on those pages are key. And, you believing in it, they're going to believe in your work, and for the most part, most people love my story. So, I must be doing something right.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add that for whatever you're trying to do, no one will ever work harder than you are. No one will ever work harder than you for what you're trying to do. And the last question, where can people find you if they can't attend Long Island Authors events?
That's a good question. Well, I am on Instagram, so my name, Frank.Destefano, on Instagram. Facebook is the same. My website is frankdestefanoauthor.com. You can find me at Barnes & Nobles and on Amazon, and any social media outlet. TikTok I don't use a lot, but I'm on there. I couldn't even remember my screen name, so but mostly I'm on Instagram, so that's the one where I usually post between Instagram and Facebook. But again, my website is frankdestefanoauthor.com. I'm also on Barnes & Nobles, and I'm on Amazon as well. So if you guys can't make it, check out the books. If not, you'll see my postings on social media and where I'll be and what state I'll be in.
And before you leave, you want to give us a little demo script, read a part of your book to give the audience a preview?
I'm okay.
Yeah, that's all right. It was great talking to you, Frank.
Always. Thank you so much for this interview, and you always do a great job. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yes, if you guys weren't tuned into the first live stream, this is our second time talking to Frank, and it's always a great time having him around. Positive soul. We all love him here at Long Island Authors. And next up, I have
Akira Bennett, author of Shameless Verses.
Nice to meet you, Akira. So what inspired you to become an author?
So I was inspired by a trip to the New York Public Library at 9 years old. My mom took me in Harlem, and there was a poetry class, and I just fell in love with it from that day. We had a writing prompt, and I took the writing prompt very seriously, and ever since then, I've been writing, open mics, publishing. I just absolutely love writing, and so it started out when I was very, very young.
Can you tell us about your latest book and what readers can expect from it?
Yes, hope. The word that comes to mind is hope. My initial book, Shameless Verses, is very I want to say there are so many different poems and different topics in it, from love, childhood, God, faith, prayer. And my newest books are more faith-based, giving the world hope, especially in the times that we live in. And so they can expect lots and lots of hope for the times we live in my newest book.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What message or lesson do you hope readers will take away from your work?
I hope readers are inspired by my work, that they're able to relate to it and connect and know that everything's going to be okay no matter what it looks like, and to just keep living. I think that's the goal, is to always just keep living, again, driving home the message of hope. I hope they take away hope, more hope.
What are some of your favorite authors that you look up to or have looked up to?
Oh, this is a really good question. Oh my goodness, there are so many, from Toni Morrison, Keats, William Shakespeare, Maya Angelou, Langston Hughes. There are so many. I really, really, really love Toni Morrison, and I love her works and how she speaks to the times and the issues of life. And so there are so many, and the list keeps growing.
Yeah, you can learn from literally anybody. Don't ever limit your options. Were there any challenges you faced while writing this book? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so writing the book, sometimes, because I'm a poet and I'm creative, sometimes I can't turn it off. And so deciding when to turn it off and to just release it and publish it. Also, when I'm speaking at different events and performing my work, deciding what poem to do. I have so many, and I think it's the overflow that gets me every time, but it's a beautiful problem to have.
Which poem that you've written so far is closest to your heart, and why?
Ooh, I wrote a poem that really resonates with people called Suicide. And I wrote that because suicide and the topic of suicide ideation is very common. And I don't think that many people know how common it is. I personally have dealt with thoughts of it, not anything. I don't want to say serious. Suicide is serious, but I think sometimes life can, that's why I speak about hope. Life can get you really down. And so my poem about suicide gives hope to those who may be experiencing tough times. Like, no, you're going to make it. You are made for a reason. God created you for a reason. You're going to live. And that's the one that really resonates with me, and it resonates with people.
How do you stay motivated and creative when working on new projects?
I stay motivated and creative by, I want to say, carving out space and downtime. I'm very creative at night and when it's quiet. And so I'm really inspired by the quiet. I'm really motivated by the quiet. I'm able to think. I'm able to create. And my faith also keeps me very motivated. I know I have a purpose. I have to use my voice. And so I know I can't not do anything, that I have to do something. I have to write. People have to hear me. I have to inspire. I have to make impact. So quiet time and God keep me motivated.
Yeah, me personally, I can't imagine reading a book unless the room's completely quiet. I need all distractions thrown out the window. What advice would you give to current writers or aspiring writers who want to publish their very first book?
Like Nike says, just do it. There is no perfect time. There is no magical moment. Now is the time, whether you need to get help to do it or if you need resources. Make sure that your book is ready as much as possible so that when you have the resources, you can publish it. But don't wait for one day. Publish it now. Do it now. The time is now, and the world needs to hear what you have to say.
And the last question of the day, what's next for you? Are there any upcoming books, events, or projects that readers should look forward to?
Yes, I have 2 books being released this summer, poetry books, and so I'm super excited about those projects. Like I said, I'm a creative, and so just releasing it, I will be excited to release it. Works of hope that will bring inspiration and joy to people. I think that's a language that speaks universally is hope. And yeah, I have my new works coming out. I'll be at more events in the upcoming months to come, and I also help other authors get published. So that's something that is coming up for me very, very, very soon. Thank you.
And before you go, do you want to read a little bit of your work for the audience?
Of course. Why not? I'm so glad you asked. So I am actually going to read Suicide since I mentioned it. Again, I think that suicide is something that should be talked about. It helps people when they talk about it, and it's common. It's really, for me, it's one of those things where people just need hope, and they need to know that they're not alone. And so I'm going to do Suicide from my debut book, Shameless Verses. Life never tasted so sweet until you got a glimpse of death. Overwhelmed by the issues of your heart, trying to keep up can take your breath. But against his purpose and plan for you, death is powerless. So the suicide must subside, and any thoughts of it must die too. You're going to live and not die, even if you try to. Even if death tries you. The grave may have kicked and screamed, but let life have its way. Speak to the suicide, but don't listen to what it has to say. Tell it God already has made reservations with your life and has you on a daily plan. Face the suicide. Let it know it's not welcome in your life, even though it feels like you can barely stand. You're going to make it, my friend, only by God's grace. And trust me, it is enough. Give birth to life through prayers and faith. Kill the suicide by not giving up.
That was very beautiful, and it was a pleasure getting to chat with you today, Akira.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Up next, we have...
Oh, hi. Okay. Hi, Meena RD. Yes.
Nice to meet you. So, who or what inspired you to become an author?
Well, it was my dad. He always believed in my writing. And when it was time, he found out that he had cancer. And I wanted to write a book. Fortunately, I was able to give it to him a day before he passed. So he is a big inspiration for me.
What was the most challenging part of writing your memoir?
Reliving the moments, going back as a person writing a memoir, and I've dealt with a lot in my life. I had to relive those moments, and that was difficult for me, especially parts of what I had to go through being a premature baby. They said I wouldn't make it in life, and here I am. I have a special needs child. I'm a survivor of 9/11, so I had to relive all those parts of my life, and so that's what it was. Yeah.
That's just amazing. And what chapter in your book would you say was the most difficult to write?
I'm actually happy you asked that question because 9/11, definitely. To know that I witnessed so many things that day that will always relive in my mind, especially I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and PTSD from 9/11. So that was definitely the most difficult chapter to write.
Why did you consider writing under a pen name instead of your real government name?
Well, my real name is Amina, and everyone called me Meena. And so I wanted it to be short and sweet, and I think more people may remember Meena. And I believe that that's my true identity also. Even though that may be contradicting why people do pen names, but I wanted it to be catchy and everybody remember me. So that's why I did Meena.
How did you feel? I mean, how did writing your memoir make you feel?
Writing my memoir made me feel alive. It made me have a purpose, and it gave me reasoning to do something. With my dad, as I said, he always believed in me, and I wanted to write something in honor of him. So it made me feel good, knowing that I wrote it for him. The book is also dedicated to my best friend who passed from breast cancer. So because my dad passed since writing the book, he had passed. He passed from pancreatic cancer, and my best friend passed from breast cancer. So that's why, yeah.
Why did you choose to name your title the way that you did?
Path to Rebirth, as you can see. Fight, Survive, Repeat. I did this. First let's go behind the book. Why I chose, a lot went into it. So the reason why I did the path is because it's a journey, right? And I've been through so many things in my life. And rebirth is rejuvenation, going through things and coming out on the other side. And I fight every day, I survive every day, and I repeat the process. Whether it's being an autism mom, whether it is surviving many medical challenges and obstacles, whether it's my own medical issues. It's just a lot of things that I've been through in life, and that's why I chose the name Path to Rebirth.
What is one thing that you hope that readers take away after they finish your memoir?
One word: inspiration. I want to make sure if one person is inspired by my book, that's all I needed. And if it's the main reason why I wrote this book is because I did short and sweet, to the point. I do a lot of what I've been through in life, but I want it to be motivational and inspirational to those that read it. So anyone can read it. It could be a teenager, it could be an elder person. Whoever reads it, I want them to be inspired.
And before you go, do you want to read a little bit of your memoir to the audience?
So actually, I want to read the acknowledgement. My first tribute to the book is because it will be 2 years since my dad passed away. So this book is a tribute to the following incredible individuals who have been pillars of support in my life. And I'm just going to read from my dad. My dad has been a ray of hope and resilience, even in the face of his own health battle. Despite his own struggles, he has been there for me, offering guidance and wisdom. His presence in my life has been a source of comfort and inspiration, reminding me to never give up, no matter what challenges I may face.
That was very beautiful. It was a pleasure to chat with you, Meena.
Thank you.
Honestly. Hello, and right now we are here with another author by the name of
Tanasia Poke.
Nice to meet you, Tanasia. So, you argue in your work that awakening isn't actually the hardest part of transformation. So, what would you say is harder than awakening?
Wow, so I'm glad you asked me that question. I think that oftentimes many people believe that when you go through a healing journey, whether you've experienced trauma in your life, some setbacks of some kind, that awakening is the answer, and that's the moment when you're going to feel some sense of relief, and calm in your life. And what they find out is actually it's actually heavier, right? That once you've awakened to and have awareness of what needs to change, maybe, that it does feel like a heaviness, and that it is something else now to overcome, and it requires you to actually take action in your life in a meaningful way, and that can be difficult. Yeah.
What is a spiritual belief that sounds wise but is actually keeping people stuck and stagnant where they are?
Ooh, a spiritual belief. I think that across different belief systems and just conditioning, you frequently hear people say things like, I'm becoming my highest version of myself, or I'm becoming someone new. And the reality is, truthfully, you're not necessarily becoming a new person. You're really just you're getting to a place in your life where you've stopped abandoning who you actually are, right? You stopped allowing external messages and people outside of yourself to kind of shape who you are going to be in this lifetime. And that's not a becoming of someone new. It's really an anchoring into who you're really here to be in the first place. Yeah.
When did you first realize that awareness alone wasn't enough?
I realized that awareness alone was not enough when just using one area of my life, for example, in relationships, whether it's romantic relationship or even unromantic relationships in general, having the awareness of what's perceived to be going wrong just wasn't enough, right? So often, you could, and even for myself, you could be rooted in this idea that someone else is to blame for what's happening in your life, or decisions that have been made and turmoil that you've experienced. And it's that moment when you realize that you are a participant in it, and that there's an action that you can take or not take, that you can really elevate your awareness and make changes in your life. And so I think that it's an important awakening moment, and it's really that moment that catapults you forward to what you can really, produce in terms of joy and fulfillment in your life.
You've led teams, communities, retreats, and healing spaces in the past. What is the biggest misconception people have about leadership that you'd say?
Oh, wow. The biggest misconception about leadership, I would say in today's society, I think influence is a word that gets used a lot, right? And sometimes it can be mistaken as leadership. And influence, you can influence someone to take on an idea that perhaps you don't even believe yourself, right? So it's not necessarily leadership. But I think leadership is really about assuming responsibility, like identifying that there is a purpose rooted in what it is you've come to do, or whatever it is you're doing in that moment, and identifying that you really do believe inside of yourself, that you have a responsibility to deliver on it. And I think you just step into leadership in a very deep and intentional way when you've assumed the responsibility for a specific notion, a specific idea, a specific mission in this world. So I think that today, specifically, I would say the biggest misconception in leadership is that you need influence. I think you need truth. You need awareness, self-awareness, and empathy and responsibility for yourself and your communities. Yeah.
Well, I learned something new today. I appreciate that. If you could teach every person one concept from the book, what would it be?
If I could teach every person one concept from the book, it would be emotional infrastructure. So I think sometimes when we think about our emotions, we think about how it's impacted from external elements, the environments that you're in, society, other people. We think about how we're defending against what's happening outside of ourselves. But really our emotions are an inside job. And it's really about what the piping inside of your body, right, and your spirit feels and looks like to you. That's what's shaping, how you're experiencing life, more so than what's happening externally. So if I could leave people with just one notion, it would be to really tap into themselves and figure out what's been shaping the way you perceive the world, what's been shaping the way you perceive yourself, and what are you telling yourself about these things that perhaps needs to be addressed and changed or amplified, elevated in some way, so that you can leave the legacy and live the life that you're really here, to have, and the one that you desire, as well.
What is creativity teaching you or has taught you about healing right now?
Wow. So I really love that question. So, what has creativity taught me about healing? Creativity is so individual. You know, if I create a painting right now and you create one, it's going to be so uniquely different, right? And so leaning into your creativity, it really forces you to really lean into who you are. Like what makes you unique, like what is self-identifying in just you know, because there's no carbon copy of you. And so anytime I get to create, whether it's a meal, you know, with a new recipe or crafting or my writing, it brings me deeper into who I actually am, you know, and it goes back to that idea of I'm not becoming someone new, right? I'm becoming more of myself and more true to myself. And I think creativity really is a gateway to that. Yeah.
What does sacred responsibility mean that personal responsibility doesn't?
Sacred responsibility versus personal responsibility. So I would say personal responsibility is more so about the things or the notions that impact you directly and only. And sacred responsibility is about what have I come to this world to produce? What have I come to this world to deliver? What is the cross that I carry? You know, like what is my mission while I'm here? And me knowing that mission is my own personal responsibility, but how I carry it out is really, that's the sacred responsibility. And so it's what my spirit came here to carry out. That's the difference. Yeah.
What is the difference between loving someone and being responsible for someone?
Wow. The difference in loving someone and being responsible for someone. So I think that sometimes, and oftentimes, we forget that love also has boundaries, right? And love without boundaries can be loving of someone else and then an abandoning of your own self-love. So I think that real love is anchored in balance, where I can love me authentically and love this other person. And that does require me understanding myself and knowing what my boundaries are. And I think that's different than being responsible, right? Because if you're responsible for someone and you haven't established a balance in love, then it can show up like control. And just to give you an example, thinking about, I'm a wife and I'm a mom of 4. I've been married, you know, and with my husband now for 20 years. And the truth is, if I show up without love and I show up in my responsibility, that will be felt by the other party like I'm trying to control them, right? Love means establishing that there's an inner knowing that you have about what's needed, just like I have an inner knowing as well. And then arriving at, okay, what is it that you believe? What do I believe? And how do we carry this out together? Because you and I have been brought into this lifetime to share life together for a reason. So I think it's important to have a balance of both love, and this doesn't have to be romantic love. It could just be even love of your society, your community, your neighborhood, right? But the responsibility and love are partners. One doesn't come before the other.
What is something that your younger self desperately needed to hear?
Wow. My younger self needed to hear that healing wasn't a journey towards perfection. You know, that healing didn't look like getting everything right and appeasing everyone. That healing really was just about awakening inside myself my purpose. You know, I think the toughest part of being on a healing journey is experiencing pain first. You're not trying to heal unless you've been wounded in some way, you know, and just understanding that that wound had a purpose. That was the first hurdle for me in my youth. And once I realized that, I was able to change the narrative I had been telling myself about my journey. You know, just to give a little tidbit, I was born to teen parents. My father was killed while my mom was pregnant with me. And just being born into that story and that knowing, I felt like I was starting in a place of lack, you know? And so it took time to understand that I wasn't, and to heal from that, and then to utilize that pain in a different way and put it towards purpose. So yeah, that's what I would tell my younger self. It's not really about seeking perfection, it's seeking purpose. Yeah.
Would you also say that it's all about perspectives?
Yeah, definitely perspectives. I think that the deepest shift we can make is always going to be in the mindset. Always, it starts there, and then it goes from there to the embodiment. You know, bringing your mind, your body, and your spirit all into agreement. You know, with the same idea. So yeah, I agree.
What promoted the birth of your newest book, Sacred Responsibility?
What promoted the idea of my newest book, Sacred Responsibility, was I was in my 20s when the book The Secret came out. And I remember it was all over everything. It was like on Oprah, it was on all the news, you know, and I was just wondering, what is this book about? And then I read it, and it felt like things that everyone has probably always known, right? That you ask for what you want, you get what you ask for, your belief is, you know, how you manifest things. And it was such common ideas, and people just needed it to be packaged in a way that they could give themselves permission to live it. And I just remember thinking, I'm never going to gatekeep. I'm never going to like keep this information away from people and then like make it a secret, you know? So that was really my thought, is when I learn something, I want to be able to share with other people. If I can like, you know, help others to run their race and to do it faster, that's what I want to do. So that's what made me write the book.
What would you say is the difference between awakening and integration?
The difference in awakening and integration. So awakening is arriving at the awareness, right? So you might have had a traumatic experience that you are healing from, and maybe you're not clear on just how it's showing up in your life, right? That's the awakening, when you can draw that line between what has happened to you and how it's showing up in the way you live, right? But then integration is when you take the lesson from all of that and you apply it. And I think so often people can spend a lifetime like accumulating knowledge, right? Buying the books, watching the podcasts, taking the notes, and not really applying it to how they live. When you apply it to how you live, that's the integration. That's now really activating your purpose. It's like taking that pain and giving it legs, you know, and really delivering on why you're here. Yeah.
If everyone watching right now forgot everything else from tonight, what is the one truth that you hope they remember?
The one truth that I would hope people would remember is that awakening to the truth of your circumstance is not enough. After you have awakened to the truth, you have to live it. You have to live it. And that might be difficult, but it's not as difficult as not living your truth. It's not. And I think really that's the hook, right? When you know the truth, you have to live it. And it's like we say things like, when you know better, you do better, but we have to actually put the energy behind it. And that's the sacred responsibility.
And before you go, would you like to read a little bit of your work to the audience so they can have a little demo?
Let's see. Okay. Here we are. Awakening does not simplify life. It clarifies the cost of every choice. Ease was never promised, only honesty. Once you know, you cannot unknow what your body has already confirmed. Decisions no longer wait to reveal themselves. The feedback loop shortens. A tightening when something is misaligned, a softening when it is true, a fatigue that signals overreach before collapse is required. That is not regression. That is immediacy. You are not losing faith, you are losing insulation from the truth. And awareness does not remove that weight, it removes your unconsciousness so that you can live.
Well, Tanasia, it was a pleasure
Thank you.
chatting with you today.
Same here. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Long Island authors. Thank you.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. Yeah, for you guys watching, you guys can learn from everybody. Like I said before, there's always something you can take from everybody, especially from our guest that we just had, Tanasia, right there. There's a lot that I can dissect from re-watching this interview. So right now, we have
Gina Falke.
Gina Falke. Nice to meet you. So Gina, what was the inspiration that got you into writing and your genre? And also, who's your favorite author, and who were your favorite authors that you looked up to?
Okay. What got me into writing was a book called Many Lives, Many Masters, and that's why I made this. It was about a woman who was put under hypnosis, and she was able to account for every lifetime she's ever had. So it went through many centuries, many different people. And most of the people, like if you were my brother, you may be my father or, a relative. That's basically under the hypnosis what she talked about. And it's a very good book, but it did prompt me to write Second Chances. My favorite author has always been Nelson DeMille. He wrote a lot of very interesting books through his lifetime. I did get to know him because he worked in the building right next to me. Writing has always been something that I enjoy to do. I've done poems and been, published with poems a lot of the times in books. And Second Chances was the first one that I wrote. This is actually a screenplay.
That's amazing. What is your favorite time ever for horror settings, and how long have you been in horror?
Writing horror, the genre is like one of my favorites. I used to watch all of the black and white movies with Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, and grew up on those kind of movies. So that prompted me to write the vampire series that I did during COVID. When we were locked down, I was able to do the whole 5-book series. This genre is something that's, I guess, in my blood. It's something that I really enjoy doing. And presently I'm actually doing a Frankenstein screenplay to follow the Bride of the Frankenstein.
What's the earliest horror film you remember seeing, Universal or Hammer?
That would have been a Hammer film, and that would be Dracula. I believe that went over to Universal after the fact, but Bela Lugosi in Dracula was just the symbol of a perfect vampire character. And, watching him create his character, no matter what he did in film, he always seemed to be Dracula to me. He never kind of steered away from his way of talking and acting. And, vampires has just been a big part of my life and my writings.
What would you say is the difference between Universal and Hammer horror films?
I don't think there's much of a difference between them. Hammer was the first one that came out, and they were steering towards a lot of the horror black and white films that were out. Universal then came in and took up all of their films and started creating their own stuff and expanding upon different horror. So, they would go into, more modern horror as opposed to what the old style Hammer was.
So basically, they're just big production companies that pursued horror. Understood. What drives your writing, and what are your inspirations and aspirations for writing?
What drives my writing is a sense of being involved in a community of writers. To be coming up behind Mary Shelley, and Anne Rice in Vampire, is kind of a big thing for me. They were well-known women authors, and I kind of want to be the same. Building up the vampire story in Frankenstein and keep it going for many years.
Do you find writing easy, and do you suffer from writer's block at all?
There are some moments where writing can be very easy. Depending upon what's going on in your life, sometimes you find that there could be a block. Presently, I've had a little bit of a writer's block in the beginning of this year writing the Frankenstein, and most of the time it may be something in your life, but with this it was, where do I want to go with the story? So until I found out where I wanted to go with the story and what I wanted to add into it and build it is what really was the block. So you can experience many blocks when you're writing.
Tell us about what you've created. Is it just books, or are there other things?
Besides the screenplay and the book, I do have an invention that's out. It's called a pop cup. It is patented and has a prototype. And you can find much of this information about me on my website, which is glfcreations.com.
And also tell us more about yourself, your events that you'll be at, how to find you, like website information, all of that. I feel like you just did a little bit. You did a little bit of that just now, but if there's more, you may.
So you can find me at Vampirist Gina, that's DJINA, on Facebook and Instagram. The website again is glfcreations.com. And I will be at many Long Island events, including a couple of Barnes & Nobles this year. I'll be at Carl Place and Lake Grove in October, and I'm doing Huntington June 13th.
And before you go, would you like to read a little bit of your work for the audience so they can have a little demo to leave with?
I'll read you the back. The hustle and bustle of New York City, the Big Apple, in an old run-down warehouse, Mark realizes something isn't right. He awakens in darkness and ponders as to where he is and why. Mark wants to be reunited with his family, but will he learn that that is not as easy as it seems? With the help of his friend Paul, he will have to travel through the streets of New York City to find his way home. Along the way, Mark will learn a very valuable lesson in life, appreciating what you have while it's still there.
Well, Gina, it was very much a pleasure to chat with you today. No problem. And folks, that is all at the Inn at Fox Hollow for our Long Island Authors event. Once again, I'm your host, Kimanthi with the Second, and we are signing off. Peace.